I don't think council is the best possible direction. So I'm not quite sure how much the debate is behind it.
For the record, that we had a special meeting at 5:30, the executive session discussed litigation, potential litigation of your state acquisition. Can we all please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Brian Bennett. Here. Deputy Mayor Lucy Krokoviac. Here. Councilmembers Jack Block Jr.
Here.
Rose Clark. Here. Bob Edgar.
Here.
Joan McGilton. Here. Gerald F. Robinson.
Here. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Please register your votes. The agenda is approved unanimously. So we've got our first business agenda item this evening is a presentation on an award. I would propose that we go ahead and move that ahead of public comments. We've got a lot of people here, I think, who are here for that award. Is that okay with everybody if we do that? Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and is there any kind of a staff presentation on this award? Chief Kimmer, please.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Bennett, members of the council. I'm Steve Kimmer. I'm the police chief here in Burien. And tonight it is my honor to recognize some what I would call heroic actions on the part of people in the city of Burien. I want to go back. I'm going to show just a brief video after I kind of explain what the situation is. But I think once I do, and once you see this, you're going to see people taking decisive action in a very stressful situation and one that had some potential danger, especially to the community. But you know, these people thought, didn't think. They reacted immediately, and it was just, I think, a great example of a community coming together to deal with something like this. This happened on September 29th. This could have happened anywhere. Unfortunately, it happened in Burien. It was at the Albertsons at 128th and First South. It's every parent's worst nightmare. So we have a restroom in there. A young man goes inside, and inside is a predator, and he's waiting. And this young man did exactly what we have told our kids throughout their whole lives. I remember hearing it as a kid. I remember telling my kids, I think everybody, this is one of the greatest lessons you can teach them. If somebody tries to touch you, if somebody tries to grab you, you yell. And this young man yelled. Well, this restroom is right next to the break area for the employees of the Albertsons, and they reacted immediately. They came out. They wanted to see what the commotion was about. They go inside. They get the young man to safety. They identify who this person is as he's walking out. They watch him. They keep an eye on him. They're communicating, and then in what I can only say, I'm proud to have witnessed some of this, and also to see people react away. They got this guy. They tackled this guy. They held him until the police arrived a short time later, and he is still in jail, awaiting trial. We had employees. They did everything right here, absolutely everything right. They comforted the young man. They had somebody that was communicating with our people, so we knew where to go, and they held this person in custody until we got there. So if we could just see, it's just a very short video, and then I will come back and we'll acknowledge these people. There's no sound to this, but you can see the reactions of people, and it kind of speaks for itself. That person just turning the corner was a suspect. you'll see him again because he had nowhere to go. And he was fighting to get away.
Chief, is this the store video?
Yes, it is. Okay, I think we can stop it there. So one of the other aspects of this is this gentleman had a bag, and in that bag were needles, drugs, that they were, again, a very volatile situation, but one that I don't think any of these people gave a second thought to what they were going to do. So what I'm here to do is I'm going to present each of the people involved in this with awards. It is called the King County Sheriff's Meritorious Service Award. It's the highest award we give to civilians, and from the Sheriff's Office, they do get a little lapel pin with that. In fact, I'll just read quickly off of one of these. It says, in recognition of your efforts on September 29th, 2012, when with disregard for your own safety, you assisted in the capture and detention of an assault and abduction suspect, ensuring the rescue of a child in danger. So I don't know if I can put it any better than that. That is just amazing. So these awards will be going to, on behalf of King County Sheriff's Office, the Burien Police Department, and the City of Burien, to Terry Carlson and Tisha Ward, who were the first to intervene in this circumstance, and heard what was going on, and again, without thinking, rushed right in. To Trami Nguyen, who maintained constant watch over the developing situation and relayed to our dispatchers at 911. To Spike Schur, Steve Islay, Christopher Perkins, and Charlie Sachs, who were the main people instrumental in holding and detaining the suspect, fighting the suspect, until we arrived and were able to take him into custody. And then finally to Larissa Engelhart, who was not shown on this video, but the one who cared for the young man after this occurred, providing support. So again, I am honored and humbled by the actions that these people took, and on behalf of the police department and the City of Burien, we want to thank you very much. Yes, and so I'm going to, this is Spike Shearer. He is the manager of the store and really the first one that jumped in to make sure this guy did not get away. So here, I want to present you first of all with pins, very special pins, not very many people get those. And then sorry, I need to find your certificates. They're going to be the last ones. Oh, I just... Okay, come on. Where's Mike?
Here you go, boss.
probably still wouldn't have this job if Henry wasn't here. Okay, so, Tatisha, there's yours. All right, that concludes my part.
Mr. Scher, just before you leave, I wanted to thank you personally. So I want to thank everyone here for their tremendous efforts. I'll say my family has shopped at that Albertsons for generations, as I've discussed with Mr. Scher, and so it's heartwarming to know that you guys took this effort on behalf of our community, and it's unfortunate that these things happen, that they do happen anywhere, and I hope that everyone in our community will take your example and always hold it up for our community to keep us all safe. So thank you very, very much. Any further comments on this? Seeing none, thank you again. Okay, with that, then we will move on, go back to our original agenda schedule, which brings us to public comment. We have a few individuals initially signed up. Good Space Guy, followed by Robbie Howell, followed by Chestina.
Good day. Jag heter Good Space Guy. Hur mår du? Jag bor i Boulevard Park, and it's really interesting observing local government. Local government throughout the state of Washington, all the council members throughout the state of Washington have the opportunity presented to themselves of greatness. In my mind, the local government is closest to the people, and the great responsibility of the local government is to maintain a full employment economy, for full employment for everyone. And in my study of economics, I discovered that the competitive free market provides employment for everyone when the competitive free market is not sabotaged. If you want to repair an automobile, you should study auto mechanics and electronics. If you want to repair the sabotaged economy, you should study economics and business and incentive. So the natural situation is employment for everyone. And when you find huge unemployment, that tells you that your economy is sabotaged. And one of the prime methods of sabotage is the much beloved minimum wage. So many people have not studied economics in high school and very little economics in college. And so they don't understand how damaging the minimum wage is. When the minimum wage causes businesses to go out of business and causes people to find that they cannot find employment at the minimum wage, they sometimes turn to crime, and thus increase the need for police and jails and courts. And they sometimes turn to welfare. And welfare is mainly paid for by the workers, although the workers don't know that they're the main people who are paying for welfare. And some people turn to working under the table. And if you're working under the table for years and years, that must be very uncomfortable. Such a confining place to work. Basically, by abolishing the minimum wage, screaming your heads off to the state legislature and the federal government to abolish the minimum wage or exclude your community from the minimum wage is a pathway to greatness that will result in the economic vibrancy of your community. And I would like to explain more on how the minimum wage causes problems, but I got the red light.
Robbie Howell.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Robbie Howell, and I live at 15240 20th Avenue Southwest, Burien. And I'm talking regarding the Shoreline Master Program. Figure 5 that we've just passed out, Dimensional Standards for Shoreline Development, dated 5/20/2013, page 139. This diagram, one of the items you are voting on this evening, is a blatant testimony to the contradictory statements that are made in this document that the city is protecting all of the fish and wildlife in its shorelines. One of the 4 shorelines, Lake Burien, is being treated in an inferior manner to the other 3. The marine altered, marine highly altered, and the urban conservancy are all being treated the same. They all have an RS 12,000 zoning code with a 35% building coverage and a low 45% impervious surface coverage area. The lots on Lake Burien are zoned 7,200 square feet and are allowed a huge 70% impervious coverage. This amount of impervious surface coverage greatly increases the pollution in the lake. Although Lake Burien has native fish and bird habitats and a large population of birds that migrate through the city, it will not even recognize that it has critical area habitats. What does this mean to humans and the fish and wildlife around Lake Burien? Increased pollution, reduced area for native plantings, and increased stormwater flooding to many of the homes that surround the lake. The Burien Comprehensive Plan, the Environmental Impact Statement, and the Environmental Statement for the SMP clearly state that the Lake Burien area is to be kept at low density to prevent these problems. Numerous times, the residents of the Lake Burien neighborhood requested staff allow discussion on the impact of this amount of impervious surface on the Lake Burien shoreline. The staff refused to allow discussion to happen. I believe that this draft SMP should not be sent to the DOE to be finalized until this discussion is allowed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, Justine Aker.
Hello, my name is Justine Edgar. I live at 1811 Southwest 152nd Street. I'm speaking for the Lake Burien neighborhood. At the last council meeting, the Lake Burien neighborhood asked that the plant and animal inventories that they submitted regarding the species using the lake habitat in 2010 and which were discussed in the Herrera and the Cook reports be included in the appendices. In August 2010, the council voted to include these inventories with the documents about Lake Burien to the appendices. Then for some reason or another, they were not included with the draft SMP documents. As a result, the newest document about the comprehensive plan review on best available science, which was done in 2011 for the city, states on page 57 and on page 75 of the document that other information specific to lakes and ponds in the city of Burien is not readily available. This is not correct for the lake. This is an incorrect piece of information. This is the document. You got it when it was done and Scott Greenberg presented it to you, okay? And it contains inaccuracies because that information was not put in with the draft SMP. The information about the species using the lake is readily available, and we, the residents of the Lake Burien neighborhood, have submitted it to you several times now. You received a big, thick notebook from Robbie Howell of photos of all of the species, at least the bird species, using the lake, as well as a disc. Those were put together by many of the residents around the lake, and Stan Molkowski provided the photography for it. The SMP process states that information from citizen scientists should be included in the Shoreline Master Plan documents. We are the citizen scientist who submitted it on the plants and animals using the lake habitat. In addition, as the compiler of the inventories, I am a professional scientist who reviewed the results of the citizen reports, and I have documented the sources for it. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Chemistry. That means that it is a higher level of degree than a Bachelor of Arts because you have to have more hours in the pure sciences. And I have numerous post-degree university hours in geology, physics, biology, chemistry, environmental science, limnology, the study of freshwater lakes and wetlands. That certainly is with an accredited American university. The SMP is supposed to contain the best available science and most current information in its baseline data about the Burien shorelines. We are again requesting that these inventories be included with the Cook and Herrera reports on Lake Burien, as was previously agreed to by this council in a vote. It provides the baseline data needed for future consultants to study and generate their reports pertaining to Lake Burien, the shoreline, and it helps in the measure of no net loss to the lake shorelines. Again, this document, the Shoreline Master Plan, becomes a new critical areas document for Lake Burien. Any new information about habitats and those creatures using those habitats should be included. It was a recommendation of this document that this is one of the areas Burien documents tend to have a deficiency in. They recommended that Burien start adding that material to it. We are requesting that those inventories be put in the appendices of the Shoreline Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the individuals signed up for public comments. If anyone else would like to comment this evening, please go ahead and assemble at the podium. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on with the agenda this evening. The next item is correspondence for the record. We have a number of emails that are available for viewing in the packet. It's also available online. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Could we please have a motion to approve?
I move approval of consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request that item D, the motion to approve the modification of Burien Cures contract, be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the business agenda as item E.
Okay. Okay, so we have a request from Councilmember Block. Can we go ahead and register our votes on that request? Or do we
Have a second.
Did we have a second for that request?
Second.
I believe it only takes 3 votes to,
3, okay. So, do we need to register our votes, or can we just notify the 3? Okay, so are there 3 council members who support Councilmember Block's
For
request?
procedural, if Jack has something he wants to
Okay,
comment
so we got
on.
1. Okay, I see 3, so we'll move that to the business agenda. And then can we please go ahead and register our votes for the consent agenda as presented?
Where does that become item G then?
I think, I'm open to putting it wherever you would like. So Councilmember Block, I think officially requested item E. Do you have a preference, Councilmember Block?
yes, but we can make it, item DA, once we already took care of item A already.
Okay, let's go ahead then and make it item A. So that'll bring it up next. So, can we go ahead then and have a, do we have a staff presentation? Or?
We have another presentation. Where am I? I'm not following what Councilmember Block
Yeah.
just did.
What we should do is vote on the consent agenda as modified first.
I think we already did that.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
That's all right. So,
And then how about the CARES after the Burien Dog Park project?
Just make it
I
out.
think that's what,
Make it item E.
But we've actually got it on the other side, we've got a couple of items as well on the next page.
Confused about.
Yes, so let's go ahead and, yes, let's accept Councilmember Clark's very wise advice and move it to item G on the next page.
I apologize, I forgot to scroll down.
That's all right. And we'll go ahead and take the business agenda items as, in order here. So the next one after the Albertsons Employee Award is presentation of the annual report by the Small Business Development Center. Go ahead and get that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rich Shockley, and I'm with the Small Business Development Center at Highland Community College. And tonight we just want to spend a few minutes and share with you some of the results from last year, and then also introduce to you one of the clients that we're working with here in your community, just let her share a little bit about how she's used the SBDC. Before I do that, I know this is a repeat for many of you, but I want to tell you a little bit about what we do and how we're funded. The Small Business Development Center at Highline is one of 3 economic development programs that Highline has put together. There's also the Start Zone program and the Procurement Technical Assistance that are all there together to work with businesses in our community. Now, our funding for the SBDC comes in a partnership form. We get money from the SBA, which actually comes through WSU, and then we get matching funds from the local communities. And Burien is one of the cities that provides that matching funds. And what our goal is to work with the businesses that are established. Often they have an opportunity or a challenge that they're working with us on. And then other times someone is starting a business. So our goal is to help them really achieve their goal here, create employment, get a loan, or solve or deal with the problem. So what I would like to do now is I'd like to introduce to you Asbury Lockett. He has come over with, many of you remember Zev Siegel, and Asbury has come over to fill his role there at Highline. Asbury's been with the Small Business Development Center about 3 years, and we're fortunate to have him up here. He's got a manufacturing background and has owned his own small business as well, so he's got some really good support for the businesses. Asbury?
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just want to take a few minutes and share the results from last year, some of the results that we had among the businesses that we served here in Burien and overall at the center at Highline. Basically, some of the things that we do measure are the number of clients served, new jobs that we assisted in helping create, some saved jobs, business starts, and capital infusion in those businesses. So in the community of Burien, in the 2012 year, we served a total of 55 clients at the Highline Center. And of those, we played a part in creating 8 new jobs, saving 2 jobs, participated in 2 business starts with the community, assisted in getting closed loans of $242,000, new equity infusions of $200,000, and other impacts of $46,000. So overall, just wanted to mention those are the kind of results that we were able to measure among the clients that we served last year. And we're looking forward to assisting many more clients this year. That does include this quarter, of course, and I'm looking forward to working with you individually as well as Rich. So just want to thank you and call Rich back up and let's go present the client. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce Catherine Barashkov to you. Come on up, Catherine. She is starting the Start Fresh Bakery and Natural Market. I'm just going to let her share a little bit about how she's worked with us in our business.
Thanks, Rich. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Catherine Barashkov, and I'm starting the Start Fresh Bakery, Deli, and Natural Market at 816 Southwest 152nd, the former Goody Gumdrops and D-Town Burgers. So it's been a very interesting and wonderful experience working with SBDC and the Start Zone program. They have been a fantastic resource for me. I have 17 years of food service experience and various other jobs and everything, but leading up to this step moving on as ownership within a small business, and I'm very excited to choose Burien. I moved down here from the north end of town about 12 years ago. I currently live in Des Moines, but I also worked as a teacher, so. The opportunity to work here in Burien has been, I chose Burien because of the people here and how warm, open, friendly, and helpful they've been. So in looking around at everywhere, Tukwila, going north, Des Moines, further south into Federal Way, my broker and I, we focused here on Burien, and it's been every time I turn around, the folks upstairs that are at the front desk, everyone that has answered questions, whether I call, I met some of you, at different events. It's just been, everyone is so welcoming and so friendly. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Rich and the SBDC. As I walked in with a business plan, which I thought was pretty good. But then when you want to take it in and get a loan, the loan requirements are quite rigorous and very stringent. Everyone knows that, but I think they've become even more so lately, as we all can imagine with the economy. And my particular area focused on non-GMO, organic, gluten-free, other allergen-free, and specialty items. There isn't a lot of background. The research and industry standards are not as clear-cut. So when you are presenting that to a lender, they ask a lot of questions and push back a lot. They ask for a lot of research, and it's because of Rich and because of all the time, hours and hours of phone calls and frantic phone calls of, Rich, I need this, and I need this report, and can I come in and go over this new financial data that I need? And he has been wonderful. He has been very thorough and very clear in assisting me, in guiding me, in determining, is this the right thing? Is this the right place to do it? Is Burien, just because I like Burien, doesn't mean it's the right place to open this business. But I know that it is, after working with Rich for almost a year now, because of all the time that we've spent and all the research that he's assisted me in organizing and presenting to the different lenders, because I have multiple lenders. I feel very confident that the Burien area, the demographics here, the community, and my business plan will be successful here. So I don't know if you want specifics about the time that he's spent in regards to the number of hours that he's assisted me in doing, cash flow analysis or industry standard research or exactly, what might be helpful. But I'll tell you, I've referred a number of people over to his organization that want to expand their businesses, that want to, bring more jobs into this community. And I'm hoping that, he has the hours, because I know he's stretched thin, to continue doing this, because I wouldn't be here today without him. There was no way that the lenders would have looked at my business plan and said yes, without the last 10, 11 months that he and I worked together on this. So I want to thank Burien for being, everyone upstairs for assisting me, but particularly the Small Business Development Center and the time that they've spent making sure that small businesses have a good chance to get going again. Not sure if there's...
Do you have any questions of any of the three of us?
I'll just say quickly, my wife and I have been looking forward to your store opening, so we're excited about coming by once you do get open. Councilmember Clark.
I want to welcome you to Burien and assure you that my daughter, who is gluten-free, eats gluten-free stuff, will be driving over here from Kent, not just to see me, but to come to your store. No, we are doubly delighted as a leader in Burien and a family that needs this. Thank you very much for coming here.
Well, great. And the demographic information about, when you talk about industry standards and typical grocery driving trends and all of these things that I know more than I probably want to know about. I want to thank Rich and the SBA hours that are available, because truly I would not be here without it, because I thought my business plan was, and the lenders went, we worked long and hard making sure.
And that is true. Your organization provides a great service for Burien and our community is so well served by your organization that we can't possibly thank you enough, so.
I guess I would add, you see a lot of the larger corporations going in, and more power to them. Congratulations to Staples moving over and all these different things. But for us, regular folks, to be able to do this, it's, a little older, a little wiser. Luckily, I have friends who are accountants and attorneys and lawyers, and I have Rich, and that's why I'm here. So, thank you. You should get a pen.
I'll take one more short second here and share something that we did with Catherine that really helped us leverage and get her loan approved. But in the state network, there's 26 advisors, and we're encouraged to bring others in who have a specific expertise that might help out. And in this case, we were able to bring in one of our advisors from Moses Lake, who has run grocery stores and drugstores for about 20 years. So he actually came in and gave us some very specific advice that as Burien, I don't have that expertise, but we're able to leverage the whole network to serve the community, and that's a nice tool to have in our pocket. So thanks very much.
I think I've talked to him 3 times.
Thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda this evening is item C, a motion to adopt ordinance number 581, approving updates to Burien's Shoreline Master Program and authorizing its submission to the Department of Ecology. So,
Well, I can make the motion, then we have the information. The motion is, I move to adopt ordinance number 581, approving updates to Burien's Shoreline Master Program and authorizing its submission to the Department of Ecology.
Second.
Yes, I have a brief presentation. David Johansson, Senior Planner with the City of Burien. Good evening, Council Member, or Mayor Bennett, members of the City Council. I don't want to go through a lot of the history because we've done that numerous times, so I'm just going to kind of jump right in here. At your May 6th meeting, there was a healthy discussion and where we were able to focus in on what I'll call 3 topical areas. First was to encourage pervious paths to the regulations through Zone 1 and Zone 2, and we've done that in your council packet, page 142. The other item that was discussed was some adjustments or amendments to the appendices, recognizing some of the characteristics of the lake, and that goes to the question or the discussion about the matrices or the matrix. And what that does is that recognizes that bulkheads and other factors around the lake should be valued a little bit differently. So Mr. Noakes has graciously provided those updates, and those appendices are in the packet before you. Last but not least is there was discussion of the lake buffer standards, and this goes to the issue of a lot of the discussion, and of the 4 topic items, the main discussion was the marine buffers. And when a lot of the buffer work was being done, there was a new approach, which is the Zone 1 and Zone 2. And I think that's where there was a little bit of a disconnect with the lake on how that was being treated. So we have relooked at that and had some discussions, and so there's 3 areas that will change, or that are being proposed to be changed to recognize, or for the most part go back to the one of the earlier proposals. The first is the dimensional standards on page 139. The second is the actual shoreline buffers section, and then the residential development section. So when we look at what occurs in Zone 1 and Zone 2, these are the 3 areas we need to look at collectively. So just to give a sense of the lake, and I just want to explain this photograph a little bit, is there's a lot of discussion about the lake and the buffers and the setbacks. So what you'll see on this particular slide is actually a south part of the lake. And the reason why I picked this is there's a good variation in where the homes are placed along the lake. The first is the 30 feet from the ordinary high water mark. That is Zone 1. Okay? And the second is 45 feet from the ordinary high water mark, or Zone 2, which is the 15-foot setback that we're commonly referring to. So that just shows you that there is some variation, and I just want to kind of zoom in. So the interesting consideration is there was a few more homes than originally I understood to be fairly near these two zones. So I'm just showing you that for illustrative purposes. So what I've done here is just a very high-level summary. Where are we at today? What is in the current proposal? You can see the marine in the blue on the left, Zone 1 and Zone 2, the freshwater on the right, Zone 1 and Zone 2. So just to work through this, in Zone 1, that's the more restrictive, nearest the water. For example, in the marine, you can replace, remodel, maintain, or expand within the footprint. Now in Zone 1, there really isn't any homes in Zone 1, but if you were to have an existing legal structure, the rules would apply to that as well. The proposal is no new accessory structures or appurtenances in either zone, whether it be the lake or the marine. Of course, you can always restore the environment or provide mitigation if you're doing a project, and you can do that in either Zone 1, whether it be the marine or the lake. You can also do the pervious paths, which we've added, and that was to allow access down to the water. Zone 2. In the marine, you may expand your home through the conditional use permit process and through the use of the common line setback. In Zone 2, for the lake, there is no expansion of homes. You cannot, if you're up next to the home, like the pictures I showed, you could not go into that buffer. In addition, in Zone 2, both the marine and the freshwater allow no new accessory structures. The reason why I do not use detached accessory structures on the lake is it would include everything, and there would be no structures that would be attached. It's just, but there would be no detached accessory structures. So in the marine, you get your home, and you can expand your home with those certain provisions. The one allowance is that in Zone 2 is you may do at-grade structures. And what I mean by that is a structure is defined as anything permanently constructed in or on the ground with some exceptions, and that is a definition in the zoning code. So it would allow decks that are less than 18 inches, it would allow paved areas, but because you're in Zone 2, you would have to do mitigation, and that could occur in Zone 1 or Zone 2. So this kind of solves some of the issues, not only with the marine, where we have the bulk of the development occurring, but it also resolves some of those issues around the lake where you have, I would say, 7 to 10 structures that are either in or right up next to the Zone 2. So that is what we've done since your last meeting. Obviously, this was a slide taken from the previous presentation, so we're here tonight looking for action.
As you all know, I would very much like to move this forward. Can I have that previous slide that does the comparison? That's very helpful. Not that, there you go, right there. My question was to David this afternoon. It appears by the reading I did in the document that the area around the lake becomes more restrictive than what the marine homeowners worked so hard to reach a compromise. Because there are houses that would be impacted by this, I would like some sort of notification to these Burien lake properties that they are aware of this distinction and that some houses will not be able to do what their neighbors are privileged to do by being in Zone 1 and Zone 2. So I'd like you to address how many homes are going to be affected and be a bit more specific of an owner who has a partial part of his living structure in Zone 1 and Zone 2. Is there anybody in Zone 1?
I don't believe there's anyone in Zone 1.
Okay, so we're talking strictly about
Correct.
the ability of a marine homeowner to do a bit more with his property and meet less stringent requirements that we're now placing on Lake Burien. And that concerns me because we haven't notified those Lake Burien residents that there will be an impact if we move forward with this action.
Yes, so the first, the best I can do is it's approximately 7 to 10 homes. I mean, there's going to be a plus or minus, you know, that are close. So that's what we're really dealing with. Most of the other homes around the lake certainly are well out, you know, at varying degrees, but a lot of them are well out of zone 2.
I'm not much concerned about those that are out of zone 2, but I am concerned about notifying the property owners who will be in zone 2.
Okay. There's probably maybe 2 to 3 homes that might actually be inside of zone 2. The rest are, you know, we're dealing with mapping and so on and so forth, so there might be another, you know, handful that are going to be within, like I said, 5 to 10 feet of zone 2.
But we spent more than a year addressing the marine homeowners' concerns to get it exactly right, and I think that we got good input from the marine homeowners on what they felt was reasonable. We worked very hard on the document, and I just don't want to make a mistake. So I would appreciate whatever we could do to get more information so that I feel comfortable voting for the update. The other question I have is, we are continually advised by the Lake Burien Homeowners Association. Mr. Martin, I would like a list of those folks who declare themselves part of that homeowners association so that I can understand, is it all houses around Lake Burien, or is it a very small segment of those houses that Mrs. Edgars is representing when she comes to discuss the concerns that she may have? I'd like some sense of what this group is representing and how they're bringing the information forward. So if you could follow up on that for me, I'd very much appreciate it.
Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you. I want to follow up on the discussion with the potential lake properties that might be close to zone 2. And I would suspect that those people that are already that close to what is already known as a setback probably know that they can't build into that setback already. So it might be nice to do a little note to let them know that there's a zone 1 and zone 2, but my sense is if they already went to the city department to get whatever they had to do to build where they are now, they already knew that there was a setback in it, and it was 45 feet away from the shoreline.
Mr. Edgar, you may be much more aware of this than I am, since I don't live on the lake and you do. But I just feel, being fair to the community, that these homeowners should be notified by letter.
I'm not saying that they should, I'm just suggesting that when they built as close as they did, they probably already know that they're close.
I'd like to know for sure, because homes have been sold and maybe the new owner doesn't know what the previous owner took as fact.
That's good. Councilmember Block.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johansson, one of the speakers earlier talked about how under the SMP, the impervious surface allowed was 70%. I thought the maximum impervious area on a lot in Burien was 45%. Is this correct, or?
Actually, the table in the proposed master plan here is basically taken right from the zoning code. So those two sync up, they're the same.
Okay, so it's 70%.
For the RS 7200, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Clark.
So I'm unclear on what Councilmember Middleton is asking. Do you want to vote on this before or after we know for sure that everybody has been notified?
I don't want to vote tonight until I know those however many homeowners are aware that in zone 2 there will be no expansion of homes and no new accessory structures. I think that's very important for those folks to be advised, of the current homeowners to be advised,
Right, I agree, and we generally do that if there's a land use change, which this could be, so I would support that, and thank you for bringing it forward.
I have a question to clarify that, Mr. Johansson. So any expansion can't take place within zone 2, but if you're outside that zone, the part of the house that's outside of zone 2, you can expand that?
Yeah, so I just want to be clarified for the lake, so we're talking about the lake. If you're outside of zone 2, you can expand your home.
Okay, portion of the house that's outside of zone 2, you can expand that portion.
Correct. I mean, there's going to be other things in play, but for the purposes of discussion of buffers, you can expand the home.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have you're going to have the other, typical building requirements. But for the purposes of discussion of buffers, yes, you can expand if you're outside of zone 2.
Okay, the portion of the house that's outside of that zone.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So a room could be added onto a part of the house that's not in zone 2, as long as it didn't approach
Correct.
the zone, okay? The reason why I'm bringing this up, of course, is because under the marine zone 2 requirements, there's a conditional use process. Maybe we need a conditional use process for the Lake Burien folks.
Yeah, and just to clarify, if you're in zone 2, it's conditional use for the marine. See?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. On a slightly different note, but still on the SMP, was wondering if we could include the plant and animal inventory list for Lake Burien into the attachments along with the rest of the documents.
Your request for this to David?
I'm requesting this to my fellow council members.
To the fellow council members?
I have no problem with that.
I'd like to know the process, because what we're doing in this particular document is responding to the 4 issues that ecology raised. I'm hoping that we can limit this update to our response to ecology and not open up the process to bring in additional information. I would think the city would be aware of the information and use it in the proper context when needed. I don't think it really needs to be a part of this approval process.
David, my right is the question whether it's accurate or not, is that part of the issue?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that the package that I submitted from our last process, it was not included. I haven't gone back and looked at the research, but I think it's referenced. I don't know that it changes really what we're doing, and at least to the best of my knowledge.
I would support that idea. Okay. Councilman Clark?
I would want to know how current that information is, if we have a current in the last 4 or 5 year data.
Can I clarify something? David, are you saying that it's included by reference now, it's just the document itself is not there?
Well, excuse me, what I learned this evening, because I haven't read those documents in a while, is that it was referenced by the 2 other scientific studies that are appendices. So that's where I'm kind of saying I don't know how much of a difference it would really make.
Okay, so with regard to Councilman McGilton's request, if we decide to give notice to the homeowners that are in zone 2, how long would that take?
Well, there's not that many, it wouldn't take long at all.
So we have to.
Yeah, we'd have to identify them, but we're good at that, we can do that.
Okay. So, so I guess, yeah, the first question is whether we agree with Councilman McGilton to provide that notice before we proceed. Do we have consensus to do that and put off the vote until the homeowners have been notified?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will agree with that. So the consensus then of the council is to go ahead and provide the notice to the homeowners in zone 1 or zone 2 while they're hearing before we proceed with this.
And that they have an opportunity to come to the next meeting for public comment.
Yeah, and so that they're notified that we will potentially act on this at the next meeting. The next request was Deputy Mayor Koviak's request to add further appendix.
The animal and plant inventory list.
And so where did that come from, just so we're all clear on that?
That was presented when we were first studying the document, and it came from the Lake Burien group. And it was my understanding that it was approved to go into the document, so I don't know why it didn't get in, but it's an opportunity to re-look at that, and it's mentioned in the Herrera and Cook studies. So with it being referenced, I think it would be nice to include it in the document so it's complete.
Okay. Councilmember McDowell.
I think if it is referenced in the document already, you might look to see that the language is appropriate so that anybody reading the document will know that is truly a reference. I don't see that it needs to be right now incorporated into the document. I want to approve the document as it is.
Councilmember Edgar.
I agree that if it is referenced, it should also though be included, because where will it reside otherwise?
Okay.
I'd like to see it included also.
Okay. So I guess ideally we would know if that is correct, that we have approved it in the past. I think we're fine putting it in there. So that gives us 4 votes to go ahead and add it in. Does that cause any problems with regard to the Department of Ecology moving forward?
I could check, I mean, but we understand your direction, and we can, if there's a fatal flaw with that, we'll let you know.
Okay. So with that, we've kind of got consensus on the 2 open issues, and the consensus was to delay the vote. Do we need to take any further action on that motion that was already tabled until time certain?
Yeah, you can either take a motion to table to the next meeting, or just the maker and the seconder could withdraw their motion, their actions.
And actually, staff would prefer that. My best information is we'll be able to get back to you at our next meeting. I don't know that for a fact. It could be the little Jim.
So as the motion maker, I withdraw my motion.
And I'll withdraw the second.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is...
Before we move on, Mr. Mayor, I have another commitment that I couldn't change. I wanted absolutely to be here for the discussion on the update that may I make space for the rest of the meeting.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us know. And we'll move on then with the other items. Are there any other items that you would like to read on before we join? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the next item, which is the Burien Dog Park Project staff update.
Mayor and Council, Steve Armour, Parks Development and Operations Manager. So yes, when I was here a couple weeks ago to come back with an update after I looked into other site actually, and I will report out on that, the Lakeview Park site, as well as any progress on the project to date. A couple of things I want to mention real quick before I get rolling, because I wasn't able to make it here last time I was here, because I didn't invite him out, I was kind of watching his time, is Mel Easter joined me tonight. He's from LA Studio LLC, and he's with a landscape architect firm. He's the principal that had provided the pro bono work for all this, the design documents that you're seeing now through this feasibility phase, as well as helping with some cost estimating and some site layout. So I just wanted to acknowledge Mel joining me, a little role with me tonight. Also in the room, I just want to mention, because I didn't last time, is Holly Tomlinson, and she's with Mount Rainier High School, and her senior project has been kind of shadowed in this project to see how the local governments work, so I wanted to mention her as well. And then one other bit of news I'll mention, without getting too specific, just so you know the interest in this project, a local business that we all know, but I won't mention their name tonight, has offered to sponsor the dog park where we put it in with the naming rights on the dog park itself within the park and contribute a significant amount of cash to the construction of the project. So there's a lot of interest in this project moving forward. So since I was here the last time, just on the 25th of March, I began some discussions with Highline School District to discuss the Lakeview Park site. As you know, Lakeview Park's about 4.5 acres, and about half of it we have a current park on with a lawn, basketball court, and playground. And the upper half of the park has never been developed, and it's still a Highline School District controlled property. So basically, between the last time we talked and now, I've had at least discussions initially with the administration to see if they even support me going in this direction, and they do. And they're willing to start drafting an agreement if we wanted to go that route. So obviously the school board would need to approve a location there. And also on May 8th, about 2 weeks ago, or actually not even 2 weeks ago, I had another public meeting to update the public on the first two choices that we talked about, the Hazel Valley and the Salmon Creek site, as well as introduce the Lakeview Park site potential. So just kind of recap where we're at. We've been looking at these three sites: Salmon Creek way up on the north end of the city, Hazel Valley Park a little bit farther south, around 4th and 128th, and now this current site is around the intersection of 160th and 4th Avenue, and a lot more central to downtown Burien. The old ones I'm going to really quickly recap. I don't want to focus on the new site tonight. Last time we talked about the Salmon Creek Park site, and I was taking about 1.5 acres of the upper lawn area of the Salmon Creek Park and proposing that. Neighbors had concerns back then, which we talked about, and what I have in yellow is just kind of any new comments that came up from the 5/8 meeting that I had with the public as well. They were just asking about how much the park's truly impacted, how much lawn space it might take. And again, I'm just taking about 1.25 acres of that upper lawn area of about 2.5 acres. So the park's not greatly impacted. One other thing I wanted to mention, the public brought up the last time concerns about parking and impacts from the dog park in addition to the ball fields across the street at the old Salmon Creek Elementary School being, impacting their neighborhood and people parking in the driveways and that sort of thing. I've talked to our maintenance staff, I've talked to other neighbors, and I've talked to Highline School District who owns the property, and nobody knows anything about program ball field activity. So if there is activity, the neighbors are saying it's just pickup games. That's not program games. The other site that we've been talking about is the Hazel Valley site. And again, it was a southern portion of the park, about half the park. It'd be cut in half pretty much. And the biggest drawback on this site was the adjacency to neighbors' backyards, and that's the biggest concern that the neighbors seem to have, really. A couple of the new things they mentioned though at the May 8th meeting, when some more neighbors came to the meeting to talk about it, was that they were kind of complaining a bit about, before Burien got it, I guess there was a playground there, and we could see the remnants of it when we annexed that part of town. King County had removed a play structure, and in the neighbors' opinion, they'd rather see that play structure get put back in, so they have a play structure for their kids and put it in the dog park. And then they're concerned that placing a dog park so adjacent to residents is concerning to them, and it's usually not done. And that's true. It would be a little out of the ordinary to get quite that close to neighbors. But it does happen on occasions. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mel to talk about these new sites. Lakeview Park.
Good evening, council members, mayor. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and participate in this exciting edition of the city of Burien. As a firm, every year we identify a pro bono project that we like to participate in, and this one came before us, and we're excited to jump on it with Steve and help the city get this off-leash dog park in place. When Steve brought the Lakeview Park site, we were very excited about this, the potential of this property. This exhibit, the first exhibit here, talks about site opportunities and constraints, as we did with the other sites. As always, there's opportunities and constraints with every property, This one in particular, it's much more centrally located than the other two sites that we've looked at. It's an abandoned school site, so it's not currently being used. There's abundant parking on two sides of the site, which is really, really important for this dog park. Really, really limited impact on the neighbors, which has been an issue on the other sites, and really does not seem to be an issue at all on this property. We have some varied topography out here, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we look at the proposed development solution, but I think it creates a really exciting opportunity for the dog owners. There's a lot of good existing vegetation out here for shade, for interest. So there's a combination of open space and vegetated areas for shade. And there's some existing fencing out here that we can utilize. We'll need to add some more, but there's some good opportunities to take advantage of existing development. There are some existing seat walls that will turn into seat walls that were apparently part of the existing structure from when the school was there previously. So that would be something we would look at as a part of a reuse process. Some of the constraints out here, I know Steve and I have talked about the desire to do a level 1 environmental assessment on this property just because of some of the unknowns with the gravel out there and the previous development on this property. We do have, you can see in the corner there, in the northwest corner, northeast corner, a large gravel area that was left over from the previous development, which we'll need to address as part of the creation of the park. And then, of course, we'll turn that area to usable, probably usable turf area primarily. Because of the grade changes on this site, we'll probably want to construct a step area that would connect the upper and lower sections, which we'll look at here in a second as well. And then also the fact that this is owned by the Highline School District, so there will be a use permit that, or use agreement that will be required to use this property. The development proposals in front of you now. Again, we're very excited about the opportunities here. This would be the northeast corner of Lakeview Park. So we would not really be impacting the active portion of the park as it exists today. We would have two primary entrances, one off the north side, one off the east side. We've designated a separate small dog park area up in the northeast corner, and then retain the vast majority of the site for the larger dogs. Again, this site allows us to take advantage of some grade changes. The far west portion of the site is a drop, it's a lower bench, and there's kind of a nice cool slope that connects the lower and upper bench. So we're proposing kind of a stair connection, just a loose, open, kind of timber type stair connection in there to allow dog owners and dogs to move up and down that slope easily. The gravel area that we mentioned previously would be removed, probably use that gravel out in the existing parking areas, and turn that gravel area to a seated lawn area for the dogs and the owners.
No, on this site, we think we have water source that we can trench up from down below. Worst case scenario is we may have to put in a new meter somewhere on 6th Avenue. But we do have irrigation water down below, so we're really hoping we can just do a trench and keep that cost reduced. I think the big thing with this site is the parking. There's parking all the way around it. There's no residents here. Residents here are way across the park and on the other side of the creek. The only residents here are way across the wide 160th. And the residents on the west side, there's about 7 houses on that side. It's a fairly wide street. On our side of the street, there's a brush and trees kind of closing in the park pretty well. And even on their side of the street, at least these residents down all have nice hedges and trees closing in their properties, so very minimal impact. When I was out there posting the park for the public meeting, I talked to actually the neighbor right here, who was very happy for something like this to come in. And I ran into some other neighbors that were walking their dog in the park that were real happy about this coming in. So, so far, it's sounding pretty supportive out there, but just a real nice site to kind of fully make this park fully functional.
Just one quick follow-up on the notice you said that you posted there. What was the notice? What did the notice say, and where was that posted?
Yeah, for all the dog park meetings, I had the public ones. I went through the park board dates. I posted 11 by 17 laminated signs that had my big dog logo on there, and gave the date and the time and said we're proposing to put a dog park at these particular sites and the date and the location of the meeting. And on this park, all the parks I posted out, like Salmon Creek and Hazel Valley, I do it at the major access points. So at this park, most of the public comes in here when they come in from this side, so I posted it on the fence there, I posted on the fence by the entrance here, I posted on the fence by the entrance here, I posted on the existing mud container in the interior of the park, as well as for all the meetings as well, we did flyers. I mailed postcards to all the residents around these 3 park properties for all the meetings.
Okay, and so for the Lakeview Park, the neighbors, how much time did they have to respond, and did we receive any concerns?
We didn't receive any concerns from the Lakeview neighbors. I can say the 2 that I did talk to supported the project. Other than those 2, there's one other that came to the public meeting that just, I don't know if they live right across the street or where they live, but they had nothing negative to say about it. And what I did on the timing of the mailers was so they get them in their Friday mail before the Wednesday meeting, so the other weekend to kind of get to the mail, and it was still close enough that they didn't forget about it.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Okay, so on May 8th, just kind of summarizing part of what we just talked about there, is when I had the public neighborhood input meeting, so this now includes the new neighbors, really the comments were these. They liked the site because it's centrally located in Burien. They felt it was more accessible to the citizens who live in all those apartment complexes, especially south of downtown and around this park site. The physical layout is the best of the 3 sites and doesn't impact the neighbors as much as the other 2. The site's already being used, this is what the neighbors told me, by the neighbors and their dogs. And that in general, obviously the Hazel Valley and the Salmon Creek folks who chime in here, the public feels that Lakeview is the best site overall of the 3 evaluated. So that's the input I got on May 8th. So from my perspective, really, next steps are, with council's direction, is to further evaluate this Lakeview Park site. Do, as Mel mentioned, a phase 1 environmental assessment. So as you know, to date, especially with the pro bono work, it's just been my staff time. We haven't been spending any money on this not yet project. It's still kind of feasibility. To do a phase 1 environmental assessment, just to make sure there's no asbestos left there, there's no hazardous conditions that would give us reason not to want to use the site. I want to do this at a cost of just under $2,000 to do this level 1 assessment. Obviously, things like asbestos, especially, is something we want to just check out the site for. There were buildings on there, there were older buildings on there. So I'd be asking council just to support me moving forward and spending up to $2,000 just to do that assessment of due diligence before coming back and giving you my final recommendation on the site. The other steps I'd be taking would be to start internal permitting and review with Public Works and Planning to keep moving forward. And then I'll up my efforts with the school district and actually get the draft agreement together and start getting it lined up for their board approval if council wants me to keep moving forward looking at this site seriously. And then I'd come back kind of once I know how all those things fall with my final program proposal.
Okay, great, thank you for this update. Thank you for the volunteer work on behalf of your, I appreciate it. Got a few questions, comments lined up here. Deputy Mayor Capolia.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this project. I do have concerns about spending money on a dog park and animals when we have so many humans in need. So will the $2,000 that will be incurred with the phase one, will that be absorbed by the naming rights and the person proposing to cover the costs?
Well, it could be observed by the naming rights if we go forward with the project. I don't think that they're gonna wanna give me money if I don't go with the project and put their sign out there.
I think for the sake of discussion, we have to assume the city will pay for that.
Yes, but I would like to see all costs taken care of. I would like to see this as a zero-cost project for the city, especially with so many humans in need of financial help.
Yeah, and just to kind of summarize what I would do when I come back for a final recommendation, is I'll have all the costs of all the proposals. I'd have it laid out budget-wise as far as what the volunteers could bring to the table, what their fundraising efforts could bring to the table, what other sponsors could bring to the table. So that we'd see if there is a gap or not a gap, we know exactly what the city might be paying for or not paying for.
And then also maintenance of the park on a yearly basis. There will be maintenance. And so then I have 3 more points. So I think that with this park, I actually take my dogs to this park regularly as an on-leash dog activity. And I think that the neighborhood would actually appreciate it because the upper lot isn't used right now. And so there are sometimes people parked up there that are, what they're doing in their parked vehicles are questionable. So I think the neighborhood would actually appreciate the different traffic that this park will bring. On the slide that shows the design of the park, there's two points that I want to make. One is that the upper large dog park on the west entrance by the water station and trash waste receptacle, with your arrow, yeah, right there. This is a narrow alleyway if there's going to be a fence on both sides.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that you move the entrance closer up to the street, because bringing a dog into that situation could be dangerous. If you have a dog on a leash or a close confined dog who gets claustrophobic, that's a recipe for a dog fight right there. And I just go to dog parks a lot, so. The other one about this park is that this gravel that's been in there, that was put in there by Highland Hospital for a staging area. And I would recommend that you check with this organization called SODA that maintains King County off-leash dog parks, because putting grass, replacing that with grass in the wintertime with Grandview, they have a huge problem with mud with grass. So they have a beautiful sand area that works out beautifully in the wintertime. So that area might be, I would rather see that sand than grass, because in the winter it's going to turn to mud.
Yeah, or at least a combo for sure. So
Yeah.
Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, and I too want to thank you for volunteering to help us with this project. Steve, are we talking about extending our agreement with them for the current use we have at Lakeview, or are we talking about a different agreement? And I don't remember how long the current Lakeview one runs.
Yeah, the current one was a 40-year use agreement for the current one, which expires in 2023. And the administration's opinion was they would have to do a new agreement for the site. I couldn't just amend that or piggyback onto that one.
Okay, and my last question would be, would we still be working with Grandview? I think the agreement calls for us to do maintenance and on it sometime during the year, not all the time. Would we still be doing that?
Yeah, I haven't intended to discontinue that support.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wilson.
Well, I had a question on the
Yeah, they're all about, right around 1.25 acres to 1.5 acres.
It sounds like the Lakeview one is by far the best choice for all kinds of reasons. And I favor going forward with the environmental study, and we can worry about the design of it after we get past that. I really appreciate free design work.
You're welcome. Councilman Block?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I too would like to thank the folks at LA Studio. It's much appreciated. And it's in line with the spirit of how we get things done in Burien. We all pitch in. So thank you very much. I too would be in favor of at least doing an environmental impact study on this property. Mr. Romer, you've had initial discussions with the school district?
Yes, I have.
And what has their reaction been to this?
Their reactions is they're very open to it. We're willing to start drafting an agreement to take to the board.
Okay. Yeah, I think this would be a good site for the dog park. My initial interest was to use one of our underutilized properties, Hazel Valley, Salmon Creek, Hilltop. I still think there's an opportunity to perhaps put in youth soccer and baseball fields at Hazel Valley for the under 11, or the use of the new size fields for soccer. So maybe in the future we can look at that if there is a need in that area. Also, I talked to my Keynet consultants, Bonnie and CJ, over this matter, and their general comment was, get it done, get it done, get it done. Of course, their dogs are repeated everything they say 3 times. So anyway, but the point is, we have a lot of people who have dogs in Burien, and it's a lot of fun. And I think that the folks in Burien will embrace this park. So the sooner we get it done, the sooner we can enjoy it with our pets.
Okay, and I agree. I agree that the site is the preferable site. I really appreciate staff's work in taking into account our comments, the public comments, and coming up with this. So I think we've got the consensus to move forward with the site. Thank you again. Okay, next up, discussion and potential adoption of ordinance number 582. Increasing the city's surface water management discount rates in amending chapter 1310 of the Burien Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be presenting this on behalf of the city's finance director, Kim Krause, and myself. Kim prepared the agenda bill that's on page 573 of your packet, and I assisted with the ordinance that follows. As her agenda bill indicates, back in November, the council approved an increase to our solid waste management fund rates. And in so doing, we admitted a commensurate increase in the discount rates that apply to property owners who are entitled to a discount based on criteria in the city code. And talking to the county, King County administers the solid waste management rates for us, and in talking to the person in the county who's responsible for overseeing that, she indicated that we do have people in Burien who do take advantage of the discount rates. King County has already been applying the rates that are in this ordinance that's before you. They didn't realize that we hadn't increased the discount rates until just recently. So in drafting the ordinance, what we've done is we've made it retroactive to January 1st, which is when the rest of the rate increase went into effect. So the recommendation is, if there's consensus with the council, to put this on the consent agenda at the next, at the June 3rd meeting. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so I don't see any questions or comments. Do we have consensus to put this on the consent agenda? I see that consensus, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is review of the council proposed agenda schedule. So we've got the schedule here. One initial question I had was about the request for the public safety discussion.
Yes.
And so, is that going to be with the presentation of the 2012 annual police report?
That's correct. That was our intent, unless you want to broken up. We just thought it would be convenient to vote together.
Yeah, no, that's great. One thing I wanted to add to that request for discussion is, we've had a number of requests and concerns about this, about the graffiti, in particular in Boulevard Park. And so I wanted to see if that's appropriate to be included in that discussion, ways, perhaps alternative ways that we could address crime, whether that would be applicable there, or if not, if we could have a separate discussion of the graffiti and how we can address that and how we are addressing it.
They're related. I think, if I understand your drift, I think we probably want two separate presentations. But
Okay.
They are related.
Okay, so then my request would be then to have a discussion about graffiti and how we do address that and can potentially address that. Any further requests? Councilman Block.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that the presentation by Discover Burien be moved to the second meeting of June rather than the first, since we do have the police report, and that will probably be rather lengthy. I'm sure we all have a lot of questions.
Okay, so I don't see, do we have that Discover Burien report set for a certain?
We don't.
Okay.
Per our way we've been doing this, we can put it wherever you'd like it.
Okay.
Well, I just saw it listed as number 3, so I presumed that it was first meeting.
Okay.
We can, whatever you guys would like to comment.
Okay. Councilman Court.
Item 15 is a presentation from Seattle City Light. Should that be a study session topic? Do we need to discuss anything about it later rather than having it on a regular?
Well, as you know, you're going into your summer routine, which is 2 regular meetings. I think there'll be plenty of time. As I look forward to the summer, we have things to do, but it's not going to be as hectic as it was a few months ago.
Question, that's a discussion on the refinancing of the First Avenue South.
Yeah, and what we intend to do is bring somebody here who can, we've been kind of in this uncomfortable position of being the middleman for those discussions. We're going to bring somebody here. We brief them about what this council wants to talk about, and then I'll let them tell you directly.
Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, then Councilman Block's request to have the police emphasized and Discover Burien later, I'm fine with that. I see general consent for that. And then my request to have a discussion of graffiti. Is there support for that? I see general support for that, okay?
We'll have that for you with the police.
Well, I think we're going to actually have it as a separate discussion.
We are, let me work with staff a little bit on that. It's going to take a little while just to make sure we put something cogent together for you.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll move on then. The next item would be the revised consent agenda item, which was a motion to approve modification to the Burien Cares contract.
I'm going to step out of protocol and ask Jack to make the motion, since I do not support this motion. And you, Jack, you recommended that we put it into the business agenda.
Oh, wow. Right here. So what am I moving?
We brought this at the last council meeting. We had discussed this on a regular agenda and got the approval of the council to bring it back on the consent agenda, and you've taken off the consent agenda, so we just look for your guidance on the side.
Well, the motion is to approve the modification of the Burien Cares contract.
That's correct.
That's the motion.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this item? Councilor Block.
Well, I have some concerns. They echo Councilmember Koviak's concerns over the dog park. That is that we're in a severe recession right now, and I have questions over increasing funding for animal control during this period. We have people that are still losing their houses, still having trouble making ends meet. And I'm concerned that we're increasing funding for pet care rather than taking care of the basic needs of our citizens. I also have concerns about the funding for this. I feel that animal control should be self-funding. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the city is not doing enough to reach out and secure that funding through licenses from its citizens. I feel that we should do more. I'm concerned that presently there's only 4 locations that a person can acquire a Burien pet license: at City Hall, across the street at a place for pets, in Normandy Park at the QFC, and in White Center at White Center Licensing. I think we should have more locations within Burien to make it easier for Burien citizens to license their pets. I also feel that we should increase the incentives for people to sell those licenses. Presently, they're giving a $2 per license sold incentive, and I feel that it should be increased to $5. That's a one-time fee. After that, when people renew, we get that full $20. That's an incentive for people to sell the licenses. It's also would be an excellent fundraising opportunity for cures. The way I would like to see this contract is we guarantee funding up to $120,000, and any amount that the city receives over that amount would go to cures. So that's an incentive for them to sell the licenses, and an incentive for the city to push for that. Right now, we're subsidizing animal control to the tune of $50,000 a year. Under the proposal, that would increase to $100,000 a year. I don't think that's appropriate. I feel it should be a self-supporting program. So I will be a no vote.
Councilmember Ross.
So I'm thinking that Councilmember Block is just opposed to animal control. The idea of a self-supporting animal control is just not realistic in any scenario I've ever seen. We've heard a lot about, and one of the things that gets me is the people that are opposed to making it viable for cares. Their alternative is to go back to King County, which costs more than twice as much, which is also coming from people saying, well, we should be spending money on people instead of pets. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We've got a pretty good pet care model. There's some wrinkles that came up in the audit which can be corrected. They need to have money to do that. I'm afraid the alternative, if we don't make a decision like that, is that care is going to go the way of our first contractor and eventually go out of business. We'd end up with no animal control, spending twice as much money. We got a lot thrown at us about the great deal that SeaTac got on its animal control. Well, they're paying more than we've been paying, plus King County keeps all the license fees from that. And that's for a city that's a bit smaller and has half the service calls. And for many, the talk about, oh, you gotta take care of people before animals just doesn't ring true with me either. For many citizens, pets are a part of a basic human need. And you're talking something that is a very small part of our city budget. We're talking about, what, 0.6% of our city budget. And the $50,000 increase, I think, is something that's necessary, but from everything I've seen, that's necessary to make cares viable. It is still half the cost of going to King County while maintaining more local control. And I think that we need to face up to either we're going to be responsible with taxpayers' money and provide animal control by fully funding cares, or we're just going to either abandon animal control completely and abandon those of our citizens who love their pets and like, and want all pets taken care of. And so I support the increase for CARES.
Councilor Block, do you have something further?
Yeah, first of all, I object to the characterization that I'm opposed to animal control. Far from it. I'm not happy with this model. It's the model that council has chosen. So we are moving forward with it. You know, my dogs are very dear to me, and I would hate to see something happen to them. They're my hairy daughters. So I care about my dogs a great deal. I've had Bonnie here at the meeting. You know, but I have to look at where my responsibility lies. And you know, it may be 0.6% of our budget, but it's not our money. It's the citizens' money, and we're charged with spending it prudently. And I feel when we're not making an effort to at least try to collect the funds necessary to bring this program forward, I feel we're not doing our jobs. So anyway, I will be a no vote on this contract. Thank you.
Councilor Rossi.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of ran out of the track I was looking at first. There's been a lot of stuff that's been thrown at us on different things. One of them was this thing, the 3% increase in here. We're going to give CARES employees a 3% wage increase, which is not what this contract says at all. CARES would get a cost of living increase in its contract, but it pays its employees is up to CARES. That's not a city issue. But it brings me back to the same thing that we have a choice either we're going to provide animal control, or as the city manager has pointed out a number of times, we don't have to. We could just say, heck with all the animals, just let them go. We have a responsible approach to that, and it's a financially responsible approach, and it's responsible with respect to our citizens and their animals. And this is a way to make it better. This is has been a work in progress that started 4 years ago. And the idea is to try and move forward and make things better. And as far as the license fees go, I agree that the city could do more to sell licenses. Personally, I'd like to see licenses available online, buy them with your credit card online. But that's the kind of decision that's best handled at staff. We set policy as council members and say, okay, we'd like the city to make more of an effort for this. That's really what your staff is for, is to figure out how to implement that. So I'm a yes vote on this contract.
Okay. With that, can we go ahead and register our votes? It's a 3-3 vote with Mayor Bobiak, Councilmembers Block and Edgar voting no. So, do we need any further direction on it?
No. It fails and stops it.
Okay. Last item on our business agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of very quick items here. We received a pretty major grant from the Department of Ecology for generally improving stormwater on Mill Creek. We'll use that to supplement the work that we're doing in the Lower Walker Creek Basin as we go forward with the projects in the Northeast Redevelopment area. Item E on page 587, I just wanted to say that you're well aware that the legislature is still in session. In talking with our lobbyists, we expect this to go into June, well into June. And there's no end in sight. There's very little movement on either part of any of these parties. So Mr. Doubleday, who does our work for us down there, you know, we all fully expect that they'll get a budget and that sort of thing, but it won't be for a while. We have in play a significant project having to do with transportation. It's a $10 million
grant that would help fund the construction of the off-ramp from 518 down to Lawrence Boulevard. So whether that comes out as something that is funded through action taken by the legislature or funded because it's been placed on the ballot by the legislature, we don't know, but that's still a high level of interest to us. Finally, and this is a new item, I'll just apologize for perhaps something as polished as we should do about this. Council will recall that when, I'm looking now at item D on page 586, Council will recall that when you adopted the most recent version of your council protocols, added to them was the notion that when a council member either traveled out of state or traveled overnight, that council member would seek permission of the general council. Councilmember Block is the first one to test this new policy. I told him, lacking any other formal way of doing this, and it seemed sufficient to me, to call it to your attention in a city manager report, and generally get your general consensus and use that as the necessary consensus that council is looking for when they created this policy.
Do you have any idea, just rough ballpark as to how much that's going to cost for lodging and transportation?
This is in Kennewick, Jack?
If I can recall, last year was $500 for the hotel for 4 days.
Yeah, I think it's the whole thing's under $1,000.
Okay.
Is this the meeting where we need to have a voting delegate also?
It is, and I was going to bring that up as soon as we got past this. There are two cases where you use a voting delegate, one National League of Cities, one the Association of Washington Cities. If you're in agreement on that the trip should take place, I would also look for a general consensus that Jack can be the voting, the councilmember Block can be the voting delegate for our city.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
And this is on a different topic, so if you want to finish this item and then
Sure.
question on the.
Okay, so any questions or comments? One, on the expenditure for Councilmember Block's travel request and lodging, and then two, his representation of Burien as the mayor.
Support it? I support it.
Okay, looks like we have consensus for both of those. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. So for questions for the city manager, thank you for your report. For the stormwater retrofit for Miller Walker Creek, it mentions 5 stormwater retrofit projects. Do you know where those are along the creek, and can we get more information on this?
No, we don't, nor does she. I think that was, and I talked to our public works director before the meeting about that. This is a very general grant. It was written in a way as to not even define where these things are going to be present. What they're doing is looking for opportunities for smaller projects, but for example, low impact developments at various places. So
they haven't determined the 5 locations yet?
Right.
Okay, thank you. And then the second item that I have a question on is the legislative report from our lobbyists. Some citizens are following our ward district conversation, and some folks know that there's some discussion going down, happening in Olympia about that. Also, do we have any update on that? I didn't see that in our lobbyist report.
no, we didn't participate in that discussion. It wasn't one of our legislative priorities, but I can find out what happened. I know the legislation, I'm familiar with.
I think that will impact our city. It's a possibility that it could impact us, so it would be great to get the information. Thank you.
Councilman Block.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you pointed out, Mr. Mayor, I brought this subject up 20 times in the past. This is going to be 21. As far as electronic methods for dealing with our packets, I've suggested either using our laptops or doing it with, like King Harbor does, with iPad, which they estimate saves them $40,000 a year by not having to bring packets for the council. I don't have a packet in front of me that I can lift up, but this week's packet is 616 pages, and Mr. Martin informs me that we used a record 23 reams of paper to print those packets out this week. You know, we take a lot of pride in being an environmentally conscious city, and I think it's important for council to take a leadership role. That's why I do this electronically, and it's unfortunate we don't have a policy as far as the council on taking these packets electronically. But there is an opportunity for every council member to refuse a paper packet and take the packet electronically, save the taxpayers a significant amount of money, and also to protect the environment. So I want to highlight that. Also, there's a letter from SEIU 6 about a meeting on comprehensive immigration reform on June 6th. It's my intent to attend that meeting. It's an issue that's very important to me, and I'm going to be there.
Councilmember Clark.
Thank you. At the meeting of the Wellness Cluster last week, we had a presentation from Mark Benedum, Highland Medical Center, on the Affordable Health Care Act. And as part of that, he presented some data on the uninsured in King County, the bulk of which, the highest number, is in the South King County communities. So I have a copy here of that. It's a different look at the demographics of our community. If you flip over to the second page, there's a map that shows that. And I know it's not something that we deal with, but it's information I thought we should have as council members. Thank you.
I just want to say this one thing here, where 44% of Hispanic households are uninsured. It's pretty alarming, given the high number of Hispanic people we have in the community. So thank you for bringing this to us.
The whole thing is alarming.
Okay, seeing no further comments, last agenda item is council business. Any council business this evening? Okay, seeing none, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.